Hello again, friends, and welcome to another segment here on Doc G's Wine and Spirits Review. As you can see, I have it set up just a little bit differently because I'm trying to give the space that is needed for this little chat. As you can see behind me, there are a number of bottles waiting for us to discuss, and the reason that there are so many is that today's topic is going to be on a country, actually a continent, and that continent is going to be Australia. It's hard for me to believe that in 4 years I have not taken the time with over 120 presentations to actually do a presentation on Australia. Well, we're going to go down under today and we're going to talk all about wines in Australia. What I'd like to do is, since Australia is literally almost as large an area as the United States, it's kind of behind the United States in wine production, which I'll talk about in a minute. But the fact of the matter is, Australia is huge. I could take one region of Australia and just do a presentation on it. So this is going to really be a walk through, a quick flyover of the whole continent of Australia. But I promise you, it's going to give you some good tips on how to get some good Australian wine. A little bit to learn about the geography, a little bit about the country in general. I must confess I've never been. It might be on my bucket list. I'm trying to convince my wife to go. So there you have it. We're going to talk about the kangaroos and the land down under today. And we're going to start that off with a little bit of sparkling. Let me talk about it while I open it. This is a wine from Tasmania, which is part of Australia. For those of you that did not know that, I'll give you a quick overview of that, and we're going to talk about this wine a little bit more in detail. So there you have that wonderful sound. I have never sampled this, but Tasmania in Australia, it's not part of the continent, it's kind of like an island off to the south in the eastern part. So here it is. Wonderful nose, big apple. Absolutely wonderful. I cannot believe it. It's not my first Australian sparkling. Jacobs Creek used to make one. So in all fairness, this one, I'll talk about in a minute, is not my first one, but it is my first one from Tasmania. So let me set that aside. Actually, let me keep it here to wet my whistle while we talk. So the first thing I want to do is just give you an overview of actually the continent itself. It's a continent of about, latest population figures of about 28 million people. You all know where it is, in the Indian Ocean. It's in the part of the world called Oceania, and its capital is Canberra, and its major cities are Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth in the west, and you're all probably, from your geographic knowledge, familiar with Sydney because of the Sydney Opera House. But there's a lot of diversity in the country. You've got the outback, and it's just a huge, huge place. So the other information that I think would be pertinent is that Australia is the 5th largest wine producing continent on the planet. Italy, France, Spain, the US, and then Australia. So those are your 5 top wine producing in volume countries on the planet. World's, the continent, whatever you want to call it. It's a wine region. For our conversations today and our purposes, we're going to call it the Australian wine region, although it does get broken down into other regions. Some other little factoids that you might not be aware of dealing with Australia is that they pioneered, they did not invent, but they pioneered and they really pushed for the use of the Stelvin cap. So you're going to see a lot of Australian wines that have a Stelvin cap on them, and that's that metal cap, the screw top. The trademark name of that is called the Stelvin cap. It was invented in 1964, actually in Burgundy. The Aussies really pushed it because they had a cork shortage, and they have now perfected it, and so have many other places along. It's now universal. It's global. Stelvin caps are popular everywhere. So that's one little factoid. Another one is, and I've probably talked about, I know I talked about it, but it was embedded in a prior segment of trying out wines in a box. Well, that was pioneered and trademarked in the mid-1960s by a man named Thomas Anjove. And Thomas Anjove stole some secrets from things they were bagging, like they were putting diesel fuel and stuff in bags, and they were finding out how well it kept the substance where it should be. So they experimented with wine, and it started out slowly, but they coined the term B&B, bag in a box, and here we are today, over 50 years later, 60 years later, with bagged wine becoming a very big thing, and there is some really good bagged wine, as I showed you in the presentation that I did on some wines that happened to be in a bag. So those are some things about Australia that'll help you figure out where Australia fits in the whole wine world. Now, our purpose today is to really give you an overview. I've tried to cover as many wine regions as I possibly can in what I'm calling this flyover, because Australia has been doing wine since the early 1800s. So this is not a continent that is new to making wine, and there are some fantastic wines. I'm just going to say it right now, that come out of Australia. Unfortunately, they don't all get to the United States, but if you want to go out and search and dig, you can find them. The United States has different distributors of Australian wines, and it just kind of depends who you're able to connect with to be able to sample good Aussie wine. But it is absolutely, I've had, I mean, you can buy cheap Aussie wine, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, but you can buy cheap, American, Pennsylvania, anybody's wine. So here we go. So to our transition. This is wonderful. It's developing some secondary characteristics of a little bit of yeast coming out. It's very, very good. So let's break down, before we get to these wines, let's break down the major wine regions of Australia. They really are considered to have three, and I actually have, which I'm going to post for you. You can see here, I'll try to lean in with this. There are 5 regions that you'll see on this map, but the 3 major regions are considered Western Australia, which is over here where Perth is. If you've ever been to Australia, I have a wine from that area. Then over here we come to the southeast corner. There's Tasmania, where this sparkling is from. And then you have New South Wales, which is a big region here in the province of New South Wales. Then you have Victoria here. You can't see it very well on the map, but I'll be sure to post this for you. And then finally you have these 2 little dots here in Queensland that are considered southeastern Australia, South Burnett, and the Granite Belt. So those are the 5 major wine regions. Now if you break them down, I didn't even count them, but I'll just give you an example, because a lot of my wines today are from South Australia. But there's an area called the Barossa Valley, and the Barossa Valley has what they call in Australia, they call them GIs, a geographic indication. We call them AOCs. AVAs here in the United States. France calls them AOCs. They call them DOs in Spain. We've talked about that a lot in the different presentations that I have done with you. So just for example, the Barossa zone, as they call it, has 2 subregions. The geographic indication of the Fleurieu has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 subregions. So there are at least, it looks like, just without a rough count, about 5, 10, 15, just about 17 or 18, approaching 20 geographic indication areas in Australia. So just like when I taught you about how to read a bottle, when you get a bottle of Australian wine, it will somehow indicate where that wine is from. So with that said, again, I just want to show you one more time. Remember, this is a continent that is as big as the United States. So with that said, we'll get that little map out of the way, refill our glass here. This is always a good time. Still got a little sparkling. Let me talk about some more general points about Australian wine. The first thing that you really should know is that when you think of Australia, just like when you think of Napa Valley, you think of Cabernet, you think of good Chardonnay. When you think of western Spain, you think of Albarino. Well, when you think of Australia, you think of two major wines, although they have all of them. But Shiraz is a big thing, and that's what they call it in Australia. It's just the same grape as Syrah. It just has done very well in Australia. And Chardonnay is fantastic. Australian Chardonnay is wonderful. There's some of that in this sparkling. Beyond that, they have Grenache, Pinot Noir. Grenache is very popular. Pinot Noir is very good from Australia. Cabernet is very good from Australia, the big reds. Pinot Grigio, Pinot Gris is good. You can even get Italian grapes, Vermentino, Fiano, Tempranillo from the Spanish grape. It's a big place, and they've got the climate to do what they need to do with a wide variety of grapes. It's really hard to just say more about it in that respect. So again, you have to remember, this is a continent. So if you were to look for Australian wines, let's talk in general, and then we're going to go to these wines. The top ranked winemakers in Australia, and I've written them down here because I didn't want to rely on my memory. Penfolds, Darnenberg, Vas Felix, and I have a couple of theirs. Shaw & Smith, I have one of theirs. Leeuwin Estate, Mitolo, and I tell you what, I'm only scratching the surface. There are thousands of wineries on the continent, just like there are here in the U.S. You might be more familiar with the value wines that come out of Australia. Australia once was criticized for being known as the continent of critter wines because of Yellowtail and Little Penguin and some of their wines that were a little bit less, considered less quality. But I like to call them value wines because some people that aren't into wine, they just want a glass of wine at dinner. Yellowtail's on the menu. You want a Yellowtail Pinot Grigio. It's not going to ruin your meal. One of my starter wines when I first was introduced to Australian wine was a wine maker called Jacob's Creek, and they still are in business. It's become a little bit harder to find, but they're a good $10 to $20 bottle and an introduction to good Australian wine. Yellowtail's a little, sketchy, but if you can find some Jacob's Creek, which should be readily available in the United States, I would recommend you try it. They used to make a sparkling. I can't find it anymore, but I never had a bad bottle of Jacob's Creek wine. I just kind of stopped buying it because it became a little bit more scarce. So there you go with our flyover with Australia. So at this change of pace here, oh, that's so good. Let me start in Tasmania, since that's the only bottle I have from Tasmania. If you remember on the map, just off the southeastern coast of Australia. If you superimpose it on the United States, it might be down toward South Carolina area. So this wine is it's from the winemaker Jans, Tasmania. This bottle went for $30, so that's not too bad. I found it on wine.com, and it tells you that this is from the Essence of Tasmania. This company, I looked them up, they are pioneers of luxury sparkling wine in Australia since 1986. And they just talk about that this wine has aromas of honeysuckle, citrus zest, nugget, and a creamy texture balanced by natural acidity. It is a 12.5 ABV, which makes it dry. Since my throat is getting dry, I'm going to have another sip. Then honeysuckle is actually coming out. Wonderful. So there's our first wine from Tasmania. Let me move on. I want to start with a white. This one I found on wine.com as well. This Shaw & Smith Sauvignon Blanc. Sauvignon Blanc is a very popular variety in Australia. Now this is from the Adelaide Hills. And if you remember the map, Adelaide is down in the New South Wales southeastern area of the country. And this is a very fresh, pure, and balanced. We actually had this 2 days ago. I still saved some of it for this presentation. And I'm actually going to sample this one. I can't sample all these because I don't want to open 10 bottles of wine and have to find out a way to drink them anytime soon. So this is Sean Smith 2024. You only find this on wine.com. You're not going to find this in a store. And we're going to sample it here. Totally different profile, obviously, than that bottle of bubbly. Some grass, little tropical fruit, maybe a little melon. Very nice nose. Little orange zest on it. So you might not find Sean's. Oh, be a big orange, a little tart. It's holding up even after 2 days. So if you get a chance to find yourself a good Australian Sauvignon Blanc, I'd highly recommend this one. Doesn't have to be this one. Adelaide Hills, though. Look for wines from Adelaide. Now, our next wine, I'm going to do the whites first. One of the things that originally turned me on to the quality of wine in Australia was their dry Riesling. Now, as you know from my presentations in the past, I love sparkling Riesling. I love Rieslings from the Finger Lake. German Rieslings are fantastic. There are even some great Rieslings that come out of Oregon and Washington State. But I found my love for Riesling by buying and sampling dry Rieslings from Australia. And I can't remember the one that I first tried. Sorry, I can't. I don't even think it's available anymore. But this one is a one from the Clare Valley. And I remember the one that I had before was from the Clare Valley. And Clare Valley is from the South Australia region too. It's from the Mount Lofty Ranges geographic area. Okay, the GI, as they call it, the geographic indication. And this is called Pikes Clare Valley 2024 Traditional Riesling. It's 11.5, which means it's just right there at dry. I've had them bone dry. This won't be bone dry. But it says a crisp, light-bodied wine made from premium fruit. And one of the things about Riesling is you can cellar these for 7 to 10 years. This is not lasting 7 to 10 years. So there you have it. This was a $24 bottle of Riesling. So there you have that. We'll set that aside. And the last white that I have is one that I had before. It was one of the first Chardonnays that I tried. Well, I tried Jacobs Creek Chardonnay, which I really like. But this was a kind of a step up. This one is Vas Felix. It's from the Margaret River, and that's in the western part over by Perth. So consider California as your analogy. It's on the west coast of Australia. That's a relatively smaller region of wine relative to the rest of where the wine is made in Australia. So there you have Vas Felix. I know this one's good. I've had it. This is the 2024 version, 12.5 ABV, and it just says mouth-watering natural acidity, minimal intervention, and this was a $24 bottle of Chardonnay as well. I know that it has a nice little body to it because I've had this wine before. It is absolutely fantastic. So that takes us over to the western part. Now our next wine is, I could not do this presentation without showing you a wine from Australia's #1 wine grape. And we actually have one open, but this one is from Yalumba. And Yalumba is in the Barossa Valley, which again is in South Australia, which is where most of their wine comes from. I haven't even opened this one yet. It's a 2023. It says dark plum, licorice, and anise. And the one that I have open that I'm going to sample here in front of you showed that plum characteristic. If you have not had a good Shiraz from Australia, I don't care how you pronounce it, Shiraz or Syrah, it's the identical grape. Why they decided to change the name is just a local thing. So I suggest if you're out at a restaurant and looking at a menu and you're with a group and you're not going to you're not going to swing and miss by getting yourself, if you need a red wine, a nice Australian Shiraz. So this one is Yalumba Family Winemaking in Barossa Shiraz. So there's the number one wine. Right behind Syrah, this is another, you can see this is Vas Felix. And this is a 2022 Cabernet, 14% ABV. This is from the west coast of Australia. And this is, I don't even know how this is. I'm guessing it's going to be great. It can't not be. And this was another $24 bottle of wine from Australia. If you want to really get good, you're going to have to get 15 and higher, maybe even 20 and higher. You can't really go wrong. And finally, I want to sample a red for you in front of you. This is one that we broke out last night. This is a 2019. This is a little bit older. And my wife and I were out doing some shopping. We popped into the wine and liquor shop in our area. This was actually on clearance. But I did look up this place called Mitolo, and they are from McLaren Vale, which is again South Australia. And it is it's right, this is a coast, this one's grown on their southern coast. And it says the Shiraz from these vineyards produce a wine with plush red and black fruits, savory herbal notes, framed by gentle tannins and balanced acidity. I had this with a filet last night, a filet mignon, and it was absolutely fantastic. This was $15.99 on clearance. And an inside secret, the reason we bought this is it's called Jester. And for all of you that have been following me, you know that our wine group that we hang out together, we call ourselves the Cork Jesters. So I wish I could have bought a case for everybody that is part of our group, but we'll make sure they get a sample of it before too long. But this wine company makes a lot of good reds and whites. This was a clearance on the shelf. We decided to snag it. So the test is in the taste. This has been sitting a day now, and it has actually opened up very nice. The dark fruit is so smooth. So there you have it, my friends. I've been talking a long time, but it's hard to cover a continent of wine in less than 10 minutes. So we're about 20 plus minutes into this. I hope you hung with me and stayed with this until the end. But I can't say goodbye without toasting with what's left of this Tasmanian Devil sparkling wine from Australia. Stay tuned. I hope you enjoyed. Cheers, and we'll see you next time.